Welcome back to the Data Science Rabbit Hole. Today I want to do something a little different. I'm not just going to talk specifically about data science. I want to talk specifically about W.E.B. Du Bois. He lived a very long time ago, and you might know him more as a historian or a civil rights activist or a sociologist. But he was in fact a pioneer of data visualization. And his work is preserved by the Library of Congress. And what I'd like to do in this video is just share it with you. I'll give you just a little bit of background, and then we'll go through, and I'll mostly be quiet as we appreciate this work. I'll make a few comments as we go along. I hope you enjoy this. So let's talk about W.E.B. Du Bois. And by the way, I'm not mispronouncing it. It's not Dubois. He pronounced it Du Bois, like voice. With my voice, I am pronouncing Du Bois. So he was born in 1868. You can imagine that was a bit of a tumultuous time in the U.S. Went to Fisk University and then was the first black man to get a PhD from Harvard. Then studied in Germany. Came back to the U.S. and was teaching at Atlanta University when he produced the work that we're going to review today. Specifically, this was for the 1900 World's Fair in Paris. He put together about 500 photographs, volumes of patents that 19th century Black Americans had gotten, bibliography, well over 1,000 titles, a statuette of Frederick Douglass, but a whole bunch of what he was referring to as data portraits that were handmade. But you're going to see how creative and modern these are. It's really just such impressive work. You can see that they use very bold color to make their points very clearly. This is best practice even today. Some stuff that you won't really see a lot today, but that are very interesting, like what's called a mirrored fan chart. We'll see more as we get into this, but it's really useful for context or for compare and contrast. He has the Du Bois spiral, which is just absolutely visually beautiful. I'll talk more about this chart when we get to it. He would give you the big picture, and much like you do in business intelligence today, could also then drill down, so just going from a national view to a state level view. So with that said, I have a whole bunch of images that are taken from the Library of Congress. The web address for this collection is on your screen right now if you want to go and look at it yourself. There's certainly a lot more than just the data visualization, as you can see from the photo on the screen. So let's just go through some of this. Remember, all of this is being made by hand, personally by Du Bois and his students. Here you can see the fan chart, so comparing white Americans and Black Americans, sort of, the images being a mirror of one another to show the different percentages. This is just an absolutely striking image that you may not have realized about as you've studied history. This chart must have been incredibly difficult to do accurately by hand. The shaded in, the black United States in the middle represents, in terms of area on the page, the Black population of the United States at the time, in comparison to the populations of entire other countries, just to give you a sense of scale. So you can see substantially larger than Australia, a bit smaller than Spain. I think this is a beautiful way of conveying the population figures. I love this so much more than just using a standard column chart. Similar approach here. amazing to have this level of geographic detail. This is the Du Bois spiral. This is, to me, much more effective than a simple column chart. If this was a column chart, the red basically showing the vastly larger number of Black Americans who were living in more rural areas compared to the somewhat more urban areas represented by yellow, blue, and green. The yellow, blue, and green would just be swamped out by the size of the red. And I don't think the goal here is to try to convey the exact proportion. The goal here is to both be eye-catching and convey big disparity. And I think this does that beautifully. You don't need to know, is this a 10-to-1 or a 12-to-1 or whatever it might be. You need to know red big, everything else small. This is just absolutely spectacular. I wish I could come up with something like this. Again, bending the line. This one not as fancy as the spiral was, but it's basically doing the same thing. It's really getting the point across instead of having to shrink those other bars. This one, I don't know. I mean, it's very creative for the time. This is the sort of thing that Darrell Huff's book, How to Lie with Statistics, would point out, that we tend to look at things linearly, like the height or the width, individually comparing these, but what's actually being represented here is the area, and we're not spectacular at understanding instinctively the differences in proportions of area. So I might seem like I'm contradicting myself with using the countries earlier, but in that one, I really think it's trying to get to smaller, the same, bigger, approximately the same, not exactly the same. Here, we're looking at increase in 5-year increments. So while overall this collection I think is absolutely spectacular, this particular one, I am, to be honest, a little bit critical of it. This is one more that is aesthetically pleasing. I think if you're advanced in data analysis, you might love this. The one takeaway from this is that I think to the lay audience, to somebody who's not familiar with data visualization or data in general, they might look at this and not understand what's going on. This one I think is gorgeous. This one is really wonderful. Here again, we use the bent line, perhaps not as effective because it doesn't really, the longest one that's bent and the next longest aren't dramatically different from one another. But I do think this is a good use of the space and a good use of the technique. I also like the cumulative bar that they have down about 2/3 of the way down the page. This is great. I love how he uses color to specifically call out the one bar, right? Red versus everything else being in green. More people today need to know about this technique. So many people today would just have all the bars the same color coming out of PowerPoint or Google Slides, something like that. This is just beautiful. This is every bit as good as Mondrian. Again, it's Mondrian before Mondrian, but with data. This one, again, it's that same spiraling technique, and I just think it's incredibly powerful here. I just think it really gives across the Protestant to Catholic ratio was big. You don't need to know the number. It was very big. And this is the last one. Anyway, we ran through that quickly. W.E.B. Du Bois, I don't know how many people realize that he was leading the way in data visualization. He was on the cutting edge. He is so well known for his other topics. I'm not qualified to go into more of his life history and his accomplishments. I would encourage you to read up on him from people who are better versed, better prepared to provide that information than I am. But I did want to share the data visualization, and I hope you enjoyed this. I think it's absolutely a spectacular collection of work. And my thanks to the people at the Library of Congress, a place where my sister used to work, for the work that they do, keeping this history for us. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I'll see you when I see you.